Hello people of the internet, and welcome back to my hugely successful and popular channel where I talk to my 500 million subscribers about life as a 50-something-year-old uncle from Penang, where I have fun documenting life in my 50s. Now, as you know, an uncle is someone who is rather advanced in age and likes to think he has got one or two things to share with the rest of the world. So here I am, and I'm talking to all of you. Well, of course, you know, I don't have 500 million subscribers. I've got 150 subscribers, of which the vast majority of people I know, and the rest of you, I know not who you are, but thank you anyway for subscribing to my pokey little channel, where I essentially feel like I'm talking to the void about anything that enters this little brain of mine. Well, anyway, for this episode, I want to do something slightly different. I want to talk about three things that are occupying my very small brain right now, and I would like to ask all of you who are coming into the channel to maybe share with me your thoughts and your concerns in your stage of your life as well, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s or 60s, or even 70s, or in your teens, or in your 80s or 90s or 100s, as the case may be. So right now I want to talk about three things that are occupying my mind, and the first thing is what I call the sandwich generation. The sandwich generation is something that typically happens to people in their 40s and 50s, where they've got to look after their kids below them and their parents above them, in terms of offering solutions to them, whether it's paying for their school fees or paying for their healthcare fees, giving them the necessary time and attention, demanding of you as a child or as a parent, the emotional support that they need, the practical support that they need, whether you have to send them to school or send them to the hospital, things like that. So where I am concerned, as a member of the sandwich generation, I want to talk about my brother, who I'm quite fortunate to have in Penang, looking after my parents, who's taking the brunt of the pressure right now. And for that, I've got to be eternally grateful to him, because he is taking most of the challenge right now. To deal with how I'm dealing with it as a member of the sandwich generation is essentially being helped along in principle by my brother. And if you do have a sibling who can help alleviate some of the problems, it can be a big boon. How else am I thinking of a solution for the sandwich generation? Well, what I can say is that for me personally, I don't have a 9-to-5 corporate career job. I have my own little small business, which I deliberately started because I didn't want to give my life to a corporate 9-to-5 job. I realized earlier on that despite what people might think, having a job and having the steady paycheck is actually more risky than having your own business, where you are essentially in control of your situation and your future, rather than outsourcing it to some boss or some shareholder who might or might not make the wrong decisions or right decisions with the business, and you might be out of a job at the later stage of your life. And that's why, for me, dealing with being a member of the sandwich generation, first of all, my solution is, my brother is helping out, and secondly, because I don't have a 9-to-5 job, I do have a flexible time schedule which allows me to spend more time with my parents and with my children. So that's my hack for being a member of the sandwich generation. It's not easy, but that's how I'm dealing with it. Tell me how you are dealing with your situation, as I'm sure a lot of you are. A lot of people are members of this generation, where they are sandwiched between the pressures of having your children below you and your parents above you, and also having to deal with your own issues as well. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, the second thing is inflation, and because everything is going up in price at this point in time, everybody, not just people in Malaysia, people in the US, people in the UK, Australia, all over the world. How are you dealing with it? Well, for me personally, dealing with inflation is basically dealt with by having more disposable income. And having more disposable income comes from two things: controlling your costs and increasing your revenue sources. So the way I'm dealing with that is, in terms of containing costs, what I found as a very important life hack is finding happiness in the simple things in life. So if I am happy with a simple meal by the street side, if I'm happy with a very cheap car, if I'm able to find happiness in simplicity, then cost management is not necessarily such an issue anymore, because if you don't have to spend things, if you don't have to spend money on luxurious items or an extravagant lifestyle, then that's one way forward in terms of cost management. The second way I'm dealing with the rising cost of staff is trying to find more revenue sources. And the way I'm trying to do that is I'm trying to do two things. First of all, I'm trying to learn new skills which I can monetize. And the other thing is I'm trying to learn more about financial markets, where I'm putting money in assets which make me money while I'm sleeping. Now the first thing, how? New skills. One way is, of course, my time spent on YouTube. I've got another channel, it's called Do More, where I talk to people, clever people, about things that really matter. And because I've been doing it for a number of years in a very disciplined fashion, well, not that disciplined, but as disciplined as it could have been, I'm now at the stage where I'm starting to monetize the channel, and I'm also having fun while doing it. So I'm finding value on two fronts: having fun doing the channel and also monetizing that channel. So that's the skills front. If you're able to find new skills which you can monetize later on in your life outside of your job or of your business, I think that's one way forward. The other way I'm dealing with more revenue is also trying to deal and learn about financial markets. And there's two things which I'm learning in terms of financial markets. The first thing is identifying stable, mature, successful businesses which can give me a decent dividend yield, so that when I buy shares in those companies in capital markets and shares regularly and on a fixed interval, they pay me a dividend, which is a very nice bonus, because it's like having a little jackpot in your bank account every 3 months or every 6 months, and that's very nice. The second way I'm dealing with financial markets is I'm learning new things. So for example, one of the newest things on the block is the cryptocurrency front, and I've come to discover that things like the blockchain and things like decentralized finance and things like peer-to-peer transactions, they're here to stay, and they're going to be part of the whole new Web3 phenomenon, where it's going to be a reality faster than people think. And so I'm taking small baby steps in this area, and I'm finding that it's doing quite well, and that's being able to give me some also financial cushion, where if I don't have any business income in future, I may be able to lean on this new area for additional income or for additional asset gain. So that's how I'm dealing with price of goods. To recap, first of all, to find happiness in simple things where I don't have to spend so much money to get happiness. And the second thing, which is made up of two parts, is learning about financial markets. And those two parts are, for example, dividend income from stable shares and cryptocurrencies. So that's how I'm dealing with price inflation. The third thing I'm concerned about right now is about health. And I want to talk about health from the perspective of someone who is in their 50s, because when we were young, we didn't necessarily think about health. We took it for granted. If we were born, as I was, with, thanks to my parents, a healthy mind and a healthy body, we didn't necessarily, all of us, take so much heed of our health as we should have had if we understood how important it is later on in life. But luckily for me, I've always been quite active. Always played a lot of sports, and so I've been quite lucky in the sense that even now in my early 50s, I can still do quite a lot of things I did when I was a teenager. But I'm also thinking about health on a more holistic basis. I'm looking at health in 5 different aspects. First of all, from a cardiovascular perspective, which is basically fitness, your cardio fitness. Now that's being able to run, cycle, swim on a sustained basis. And I think this is important because cardiovascular fitness is essentially heart health. And if I can hopefully look after my health from a cardiovascular perspective, I'm hoping to be able to live healthy for longer. The second aspect of health is, of course, strength. And strength is not necessarily being able to lift a lot of weights, but health from a practical standpoint, what I call functional health. For example, being able to take my groceries home from the store to the car, and from the car to my flat up a set of stairs. And for example, being able to change my car tire if in fact it does burst on me on the highway, or if I have to pick up my dad if he falls down because his mobility is impaired. So things like that. So how I'm dealing with strength is, of course, a lot of body weights, exercises, and a little bit of weights. The third part about health is, of course, health from a cognitive perspective, brain health. So brain health is things like processing speed, learning new things, being able to respond quickly, to be able to learn new skills, and brain health is something which I think is very important. So I look at health from also a brain perspective, long-term memory, short-term memory, stuff like that. The fourth part about health is, of course, what I call balance and coordination. Balance and coordination is actually very important because as you get older in life, falling and the injuries you get from falling is a very big thing. If you fall and you get injured, it will severely impact the way you live life. And I'm very concerned about that because I see my parents now, and balance and coordination are challenges for them. So I'm trying to be able to have better balance and better coordination from the workouts that I do, so that hopefully as I get into my 60s and 70s, I don't have the same issues as them. The fifth part about health, which I'm looking at, is what I call endurance. Endurance is being able to do something where your body's under stress for a longer space of time, whether it's cycling, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's running away from something. For example, if you're being robbed by a burglar, can you run away from that situation? I know it's a bit, it's a little bit extreme, but that's how I look at it. And maybe it's a case where you have to pick up a loved one and carry him or her to the side of the road, and that side of the road is maybe 30 meters away. Or if you're, for example, a loved one falls in the river, can you jump in the river and swim to your loved one and rescue him or her and swim to the other side of the bank so that he or she won't lose his or her life? Can you do that? I know this is a bit extreme in the way one thinks, but you never know nowadays because all kinds of things are happening to us, and if we are able to deal with those issues with some ability, I think that might help. So in summation, the three things that I'm thinking about right now: the sandwich generation and having to deal with it. The second thing is, of course, dealing with the price of goods, the inflation, which is things are getting much more unaffordable now. And the third thing is health. So I want to ask you guys how you are dealing with those three things, whether you're in your teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s, how you are dealing with these issues. And if you can, tell me how you're thinking about these things in the comments below, and maybe we can have a group solution to those issues. So anyway, thank you for swinging by my hugely successful channel, and for giving me your time and your thoughts in the comments below. Merci beaucoup. See you next time. Bye bye.